Good morning and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing out there?
Super
Woohoo!
duper.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. All right, we are June-ish, mid-June, we'll say here. And so welcome everyone. For those that are new, uh, we want to welcome you to Voices of Health Point. And this is runs from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're welcome to join in. This is where we talk all things Health Point, and sometimes we get into tangents, talking on, related topics. For those that aren't early birds or in a different time zone and not keen to getting up even earlier than 8 a.m., you're welcome to catch the episode uploaded onto Voices of Health Point, which is on YouTube. But for those that are here, we have a couple of docket items. I'm going to cover a bit of a nerdy, geeky item. Apologize in advance for that, but it's on something called the Warburg effect, and as it ties into cancer. And then we're going to have, hopefully, Hank, possibly Hank Zampa, that's going to do a segment on vitamin C. So let me kind of dive into things with the Warburg effect. The context of this, again, usually don't go down this road, but I had a coaching session earlier this week where the individual that I was coaching with, she has cancer, and and I have a background and credentials in integrative oncology, and so it was a fresh reminder on the Warburg effect, is what we kind of started talking about, and I thought, yeah. It's a little bit geeky, but this does tie in very much so to things related to certainly sugar, as you will see. So with that, let's go down that road. So why cancer cells crave sugar? The Warburg effect explained. Imagine your body as a busy city, and each cell is like a small business trying to stay open. To keep the lights on, each business needs energy. Most cells get their energy efficiently by running a high-tech power plant, one that burns glucose or sugar with oxygen to produce a large amount of usable energy. This is called oxidative phosphorylation, and it's what healthy cells do when oxygen is available. But in the 1920s, a German biochemist named Dr. Otto Warburg discovered something strange, something that would change how we think about cancer. Warburg, a brilliant and intense scientist, had already made a name for himself in cellular biology. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1931 for his work on cellular respiration, how cells use oxygen to make energy. But it was another one of his discoveries that would become his legacy, the Warburg effect. Warburg noticed that cancer cells don't use oxygen the way healthy cells do. Even when oxygen is present, cancer cells largely avoid the efficient power plant, which is oxidative phosphorylation. Instead, they fall back on a much older, faster, but far less efficient method, glycolysis, which breaks down glucose without oxygen and produces lactic acid. This was a revolutionary idea. Why would cancer cells intentionally choose an energy process that produces far less energy per glucose molecule? Let me let somebody in the meeting there. So again, this was why would cancer cells intentionally choose an energy process that produces far less energy per glucose molecule? The answer lies in what cancer cells are trying to do, not survive peacefully, but divide rapidly, hijack resources, and spread by using glycolysis. And so by using glycolysis, they can process glucose quickly, producing not just enough energy, but also the raw materials. Please mute yourself. They can thrive in low oxygen environments, which often exist inside tumors. They generate an acidic environment due to the lactic acid that breaks down nearby tissues and helps them invade. It's like replacing a modern industrial bakery with a dozen smoky campfires. Inefficient, but fast, aggressive, and flexible. Even today, PET scans or PET scans, which are used to detect tumors, are based on this principle. They inject a small amount of radioactive glucose into the body and track it. Tumors light up on the scan because cancer cells suck up sugar like fuel hungry engines. So those that are familiar with a PET scan, there's a material that is injected into your body. It's a radioactive, has a radioactive tracer in it, which is why you don't want to have these like every day or something like that. But that radioactive tracer is what allows the scanning machinery to pick up where that radioactive tracer is. But the key is why is that radioactive tracer going to cancer cells or masses or tumors if they exist in the body? And the reason is because those cancerous cells suck up the sugar, the glucose. So when you're thinking about modern day PET scans, PET scans, that's a technology that they're using. Just kind of wanted to break that down a little bit. So again, they inject a small amount of radioactive glucose into the body and track it. Tumors light up on the scan because cancer cells suck up sugar like fuel hungry engines, far more than normal cells do. And I'll get into some of those numbers, by the way. Otto Warburg believed this metabolic dysfunction, this broken way of making energy, was the cause, not just a symptom of cancer. Though that view has been debated and modified over time, his core discovery remains central to modern oncology. In fact, the Warburg effect has helped shift attention from just genetics to metabolism, and that has major implications. Researchers like Dr. Nasha Winters and others in the field of integrative oncology use this insight to guide nutritional, metabolic, and lifestyle interventions. The goal? To make the body less hospitable to cancer by targeting its dependence on sugar and glycolysis. Warburg's legacy reminds us that cancer isn't just a disease of DNA. It's also a disease of broken energy metabolism. And if cancer cells are stuck in survival mode, clinging to sugar like a lifetime, then strategies that target that weakness, like blood sugar control, fasting, or mitochondrial support, may give us new, non-toxic ways to intervene. Otto Warburg was controversial in his time. Again, this was back in the early 1900s. He was eccentric, outspoken, and fiercely protective of his ideas. But nearly a century later, his insights continue to shape the future of cancer care. In a world focused on genes and drugs, Warburg's work offers a powerful reminder. How cells make energy may be just as important as what they are made of. Okay, so again, for those that are unmuted, I think, and have any questions or kind of commentary on these. Again, dense subject. I understand that, but it has implications in terms of just general approaches to macronutrients. If we kind of just really break it down to its real basic core, if somebody, whether they're in a cancering situation or not in a cancering situation, if they're just consuming lots of sugar and creating lots of glucose, not conducive based on the Warburg effect. And by reducing that, which is so much of what we talk about, and having whole foods, nutrient dense foods, minimizing the carbohydrates, certainly simple carbohydrates and sugars, and the carbohydrates that we do get are more complex. They have fiber, they come from vegetables and fruits and so forth. But let me just kind of give you some, at the risk of delving into even more geeky details, just kind of give you some numbers to help understand the magnitude of this. So again, no pop quiz on these terms, but when you're burning fuel, when the cells are doing they're respiratory process using oxidative phosphorylation. That's with oxygens. That we've talked before about the currency, the energy currency of the body is something called ATP, and that's what, produces energy. And in that healthy respiratory method of oxidative phosphorylation, you're producing about 36 ATP molecules. By comparison, in glycolysis, which is the cancerous, the Warburg effect that we're talking about, where it's in this environment, it might be a low or no oxygen environment inside a tumor, it's much less efficient. How much less? About 2 ATP. So a healthy respiratory a method in a healthy cell is about 18 times more efficient in terms of its energy production. So then you might say, well, why, if it's so inefficient, if it's 18 times less efficient, how is it producing energy? That's a good question. And the answer is cancerous cells produce way more glucose receptors on the surface of the cell. So although each ATP molecule, or the ratio of ATP molecules that it's producing, is way less, let's just say, almost 20 times less, 10 to 20 times less, the amount of receptors, just think about, like, on the surface of a cell, the amount of, like, suction cups or vacuum cleaners on the surface of the cell, on a cancerous cell will have 10 to 100 times more glucose transporters than a healthy cell. So a cancerous cell will create many it's what's called GLUT1, these suctions that are sucking up this glucose 100 times. And so they're just, again, when it comes to a PET scan for cancer, these thousands of little vacuum cleaners on the cancerous tumor are just sucking up. It's saying, ooh, we want sugar, we want glucose, and they just have produced on the surface of the cancerous cell all these vacuum cleaners to just gobble up all that sugar. And so when somebody gets a PET scan and that is pulling that in, that's why that radioactive tracer then goes to that mass, that tumor mass, and the imaging machinery can pick that up and say, okay, somebody has this mass in their abdomen, or in their breast, or in their their brain, or wherever that might be. So anyhow, guys, I don't know if that was fun, but there you have it. There's my docket item on the Warburg effect. Anybody have any commentary, questions?
I do. Eric, I have a
Yes,
question.
sure.
This may be common knowledge to a lot of people, but I don't know. Does the cancer feed on like monk fruit, stevia, the types of substitutes that we feel are healthy to replace sugar? But do you know if the cancer cells feed on those kinds of things, xylitol, that type of thing as well?
Yeah, I'll give you the answer on that, and with just a caveat that we're going to have, and it's okay to have, some sugar. Okay, even nature sugar. Okay, so we all know that. But the answer is yes. Sugar from an apple or an orange or a banana or monk fruit or whatever. Sugar in the context of the Warburg effect, sugar is sugar, glucose is glucose. So the answer is yes. So then you might be thinking, oh my gosh, can I never eat another apple again? No, that's not the case. I will say that in the realm of integrative oncology, so in the program that I'm certified through, which is what's called a MATSE trained, I'm a MATSE trained advocate. I work in concert with a MATSE trained physician, and somebody's got some feedback on their phone. I might need to mute everybody here. I don't know if everybody else can hear that feedback, but there we go. I think somebody just corrected that. Thank you. So yeah, let me kind of do some double caveats here. You never want to take like one little excerpt like on a Warburg effect and like draw mass conclusions from and do big behavior changes, especially in the realm of anything medically. You always want to be working in concert with your doctor. And in the realm of integrative oncology that I work with, we're an oncology team. So I'm a MATSE trained advocate, which is, think of it like a coach. Okay, so I have this information, but I'm really working with the patient in terms of behavior change. If there's a diagnosis and a prescription, that whether you're an integrative oncologist or a standard oncologist, just telling somebody what they should do doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do that. So that's where somebody like myself comes in with helping them implement these choices. But my point of that is nobody's coming in and just understanding a Warburg effect and then taking massive action on what they eat or don't eat. That is something where there's a team. It's very much a test, assess, don't guess protocol. Test, assess, and then we address. So lots of testing, lots of blood draws to be able to determine these types of things. Then the integrative oncology team, which would be myself and then a MATSE trained physician. I work with one out of Chicago that is trained in the same protocol, but she, her background is in standard. She was trained at UCLA in radiology. She practiced outside of Chicago as a radiologist, and it was only kind of as her second career that she became trained in the integrative approach. And then we're working in concert with the standard of care team. So the Western medicine team, that they're going to use three approaches typically. They're treating the tumor. They're not treating the person typically. They're treating the tumor. And those choices, those arrows in their quiver, are basically threefold. They've got surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. Surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. That's their primary tools in their tool bag, and those are important tools. So this entire team, integrative, behavioral, as well as standard of care Western medicine tools. A big way of saying, it's a long-winded way of saying, Pam, that on the subject of, is monk fruit sugar or any other kind of sugars perceived the same by cancerous cell? The answer is yes, but not to run out and stop eating a banana, right? But I will tell you that when we're working with somebody that is in cancering, we may, again, after lots of testing and a lot of further understanding and understanding what the metrics are, if we're going down this road of the integrative of the Warburg effect, we'll say, we are going definitely into keto realm. So in our weight loss realm, we're talking about a net carb per day of between 50 and 100 net carbs, and that's very sustainable. That's very you get a good diversity in your diet. You get the vegetables and you get the fruit. But in a cancering patient, where the numbers and the oncology team has deemed this to be the approach, we will drop down to under 12 net carbs. Why? because we want to absolutely work to create an inhospitable environment for that cancer. And that might be to prepare the body to be able to have a better effect given if they get their chemo treatment, if they get their radiation. But again, that's all very, very tightly monitored. But it is in that case, Pam, that person would be, they would not be, getting their monk fruit or their apple or their banana or anything, because that's going to blow them past, 12 net carbs per day. And you can imagine that's quite difficult to maintain that level of carbohydrate or glucose restriction, but it's done for a window of time for that process. Great question, Pam. Kind of a long-winded answer. Did I answer it for you?
Yeah, you did. Excuse me. Thanks, Eric.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess more broadly, and I'll just speak to some of the conversation that came up with this individual that I was coaching is, and you hear this happening, and I just want to draw a broad picture here. She had cancer back in the 90s, had some various treatments, and then it was basically taken care of was the thought, in the early 2000s. Now, what do we mean by that? She had not an integrative approach, not really anything in terms of a lifestyle approach. It was the SOC model, the standard of care model, and that can be extremely effective at treating what? Treating the tumor. Okay. And I'll just make categorical statements here to give context. They treated the tumor. Okay. They cut it away. Okay. And so, she had this window of time where she was NED, which is no evidence of disease. But remember, if the mechanisms in the body, and it's not just dietary, there's a lot in the integrative approach. We talk about the terrain 10. There's 10 different areas: stress, environmental toxins, not just dietary. But in her case, again, I'm just being broadly speaking here, just to kind of make a point, there was really nothing attended to in terms of how her body was producing its energy. It was producing its energy, and it produced maybe that and other factors produced this tumor growth, a cancer, and they surgically removed it, and that kind of took care of things for a number of years until the early 2000s. Then she got another incident of cancer. Again, standard of care treatment kind of zapped that, took it away. But again, nothing really fundamentally addressing, is there something going on in the body that is making it attractive for cancerous cells? And so now it's coming back again. And so now she's looking into ways to work with the standard of care model, but also the integrative model. And just generally speaking, we're fortunate to live in an era here, 2025, where she was already quite well educated on some of this that quite wouldn't have been available to her in the 90s. I don't think. So we just are in a much better educational environment now than we used to be. So now she's looking into that and looking to get help and guidance on treating the body, because that's what the integrative oncology is doing, is instead of treating the cancer, or in addition to treating the cancer or the tumor, it's treating the person, treating the human. Are there macronutrients things in terms of sugar or whole foods and nutrition? Are there things in terms of stress? Are there things, some of you might be familiar with ACE scores. It's unbelievable the correlation between ACE scores, which for those that are familiar with it is stands for adverse childhood, um, um, basically, trauma that, but that's another form of stress. It can kind of be a chronic lifelong stress unless it's looked into and addressed and so forth. So, it's not just sugar and macronutrients, it can be a lot of factors that can be looked at. Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
Sure,
Questions, comments?
I'll chime in for a moment.
Yes, David.
And so I loved your analogy of the vacuum cleaners sucking up to overtake the good cells, foods away from them by having a greater power source. So you give us some really great pictures. But kind of getting back to Health Point in our program, as recently, within the past year, I had cancer surgery, and I'm cancer free, and so praise God, and everything is great. But one of the things I was grateful for was the knowledge that I had because of Health Point prior to the surgery, so that I did 2 cycles of Health Point, so I was maximum healthy before my surgery, and have continued to stay. When you start talking cancer, obviously my ears now perk up where they didn't necessarily before. And so, and the other part is my better understanding of striving to be clean, as Carol would say, and staying clean so as to keep my body in an optimal place. And so the one other thing I would just add would be, Hank talks about this all the time, and it comes up about how the soil is just so depleted. And even you talked about taking a tomato and using whatever your monitor is from Trader Joe's, and even though it was organic, it wasn't. It was just average. And so just the importance of taking the Neutralite supplements in order to fill those gaps, so that your body has all the nutrition that it needs in order to be able for its cells and the body to do all its work. And again, Hank, we all know Hank takes a lot of supplements. And as he shared last week, I think he's turning 92 in a couple months, and so my joke always is, I want to be like Hank. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you for
I just heard my name there, Eric.
yes.
Great information, Eric, and that's so true, because we become what we eat, okay? It's really gets to the bottom line. It's very difficult to track everything, I know, but what I've learned, let me turn my video on. Maybe you can see me too. There
Yes,
I
we
am.
can. Hey, Hank.
Hi. So, yeah, what I've learned is that, and I liked sugar as much as anybody else, all right, at one time. But once I stayed away from it as long as I could, really fought it. Today, if I get something that's got sugar in my mouth, I have to spit it out almost, because it just doesn't taste right. It became where I just cannot handle the sugar anymore. And I think that's what it takes after a while. You got to train your body to be careful what you put into your system. And I'm going to just, if I can take some time here, I want to read to you the guy that I refer to. The first thing I do is Dr. Mark McCosey. You see me talk about this book before, okay? And he's not just an MD, he's an MD PhD, all right? That says a lot about him. And he's got a 40-year career as a physician, medical anthropologist, epidemiologist, and he has accomplished something that no other physician has been able to achieve. So it's great credentials, all right? And I do subscribe to his newsletters, and I'm going to read to you one that came not a little while ago, but it really makes sense And he says, you know, we've got a great immune system if we just know how to take care of it. Okay. And you got to be immune ready. He's not about curing diseases. He's making that, statement he has to, but it's about taking care of your immune system. It's so powerful once you do the right things. Now, I'm going to read some of the things off this newsletter that came to me from him. So the number one question on everyone's mind right now is, what should I be doing to protect myself and my family? We heard all the common sense about washing your hands, all comes out to supporting your immune system. Here's a few key steps, all right? To start with one of nature's most versatile immune boosters, elderberry. Testing revealed that it kills 13 common pathogens. Guess what? Elderberry is a Neutralite double X. All right. He also mentions echinacea. Well, we've heard about echinacea many times, right? Which Neutralite produces from their own certified organic farms. It's a great system. It's not feel the cold coming on. And I learned this from Carol. Boy, she dumps 5 echinacea immediately, not 1 or 2, 5 at one time. She takes them down, and by the way, you kick that cold right in its butt, and it works. It's amazing how good that stuff is because it's coming from natural farms with good minerals in the soils, and that's what makes the difference. I think David mentioned the minerals, our soils are being so depleted. It is so true. There's so much pesticides and herbicides put on most soils. It's ridiculous. So elderberry is, again, it's important. This is so important because as much as 80% of your body's immune system is found where? In your gut. Okay? That's why we say you become what you eat. Restock your immune system, most powerful ally. Now get this one, with vitamin D3. Now, and I want to really expand on this because, back at one time, vitamin D was, looked at as with micrograms and milligrams and so on, but it was so effective that it was knocking big pharma out of the business. So they went to what's called international units. And I want to talk about that in a minute, okay? Vitamin D may be the most underrated immunity supercharger on the planet. Data from more than 10,000 people confirm this immune-boosting vitamin protects against acute respiratory infections. Recent findings show that D3 immediately gets to work with your good bacteria in your GI microbiome. Now, and this is going to shake some of you, okay? He advises 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3. Now, when did that number come in? At one time, it's in grams and all that stuff, but now it's in IUs because people look at that number, they get scared. Oh, that's so much IUs. Let me tell you how many IUs is 10,000 IUs. It's 250 micrograms, not milligrams, micrograms. That's what 10,000 IUs comes out to, all right? Again, it's available from Neutralite plant-based farms. Now, I take about, I take a little more than 10,000 a day. I take 5 in the morning, that's 10,000, because each one of our tablets is 2,000 micrograms I use. And then, so 5 in the morning and about 3 in the evening. So I take about 8 of vitamin D3. But listen to this, it has K2 in it. What is K2 all about? K2 takes the calcium out of your system and deposits them into your bones. It's a transporter. The K2 is so important to have. Some people take 1 vitamin D tablet. I'm sorry, but it's garbage, okay? It's nothing. So we're talking 10,000 IUs, breaks down to 250 micrograms. Now it takes 1,000 micrograms to do 1 milligram, right? Okay, so think about that. 10,000 IUs is very minimal. Again, we have it in our line. And I've talked about another book the other day, and that Half the book was all about a vitamin D3, the power of vitamin D3, and how much we really need to take that. Okay, it was a great, interesting article. So now let's go to vitamin C. Is it still worth taking? The answer is definite, a big fat yes. It encourages the production of white blood cells. Nutrilite produces slow-release vitamin C from acerola cherries grown under certified organic farms. Let's talk about vitamin C. You all heard the name Dr. Linus Pauling, I'm sure. He got the Nobel Prize for that and so on. And he recommends 2,000 milligrams daily of vitamin C. Now, our vitamin C tablets are 500 milligrams, all right? That means 4 vitamin C a day, minimum, he talks about. You know, the human creature, us humans, are one of the few creatures that do not produce vitamin C in our system. Many other creatures out there do produce it automatically. Humans do not. We have to replace it. We could lose vitamin C over a rage, get mad about something. People who smoke lose vitamin C like crazy. I mean, vitamin C is vital. But here's some of the challenge you need to know, okay? Vitamin C is one of the most important nutrients your body needs on a daily basis to maintain optimal health and well-being. Listen to this. Your brain, eyes, skin, heart, lungs, and digestive and immune system all need vitamin C in order to function properly. Since vitamin C is an essential nutrient, it's best to consume vitamin C-packed foods daily. However, sufficient quantities of vitamin C through food might not be feasible for most of us. For many, taking vitamin C supplements is a more convenient and efficient way to get your daily dose of those essential vitamins. Now listen to this also. Vitamin C supplements, unfortunately, are made using ascorbic acids from China, made using genetically modified corn as the GMO, right, as the primary source. Buy your vitamin C from supplements from a vendor, supplier you can trust. You know, Nutrilite has been number one. We all know that. Over 90% of vitamin C market in the United States is now dominated by China and derived from GMO corn. Hello, you know, people go to these stores like what was it, GNC? Well, guess who owns GNC today? A Chinese company. All right. So guess what you're getting? So again, vitamin C, minimum of 4 of those a day, according to Dr. Pauling, and that's 2,000 milligrams. It's still, I take 6 a day. So you know, okay. It's about keeping your immune system strong and built up, because that's it's going to fight off all the garbage that comes our way. How about B vitamins? Take B vitamins for peak immunity. All 8 B vitamins are essential for building your defenses against viruses and infection. He recommends taking a high-quality vitamin B complex supplement, which Nutrilite B complex contains all 8 in a slow-release form because our body does not store them. Okay? So again, you got to take your vitamin Bs. I take 3 of those a day, like it says on the bottle. The antiviral mineral that can make your immune system stronger is selenium. The viruses thrive in populations where selenium is scarce. Again, it is included in Nutrilite XX multivitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients from their own certified organic farms. So just some things I want to share with you guys, okay? Well, you know, don't get scared about 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. It's nothing. I mean, when you break it down, how little that really is, and we need it. Vitamin D it's like a miracle product to be putting into your system with the K2 that we have. So I certainly hope that helped some of you. Again, do your homework. Your immune system is your responsibility. And, you know, I respect doctors, but I'll tell you what, They are programmed and trained in pharmaceuticals. Okay, this was told to me by a doctor on a flight to California one year. He was sitting next to me, and he says, "Hank," because I asked him, "Don't you guys ever study other ways to treat people? You know, preventive ways?" He says, "Well, let's put it this way: we know about it, but guess who subsidizes medical schools? Pharmaceutical companies. Guess what we study? Pharmaceuticals." He was upfront with me. He says, "It's the way it is." And here we got something in our hands through Neutralite. You can't take too much of it. It's like eating too much. I love blueberries, and they're good, great for the brains. Okay, my shake every day includes blueberries, and it's just once you train your system to eat clean. And do we get off the track once in a while? Yeah, we have an ice cream here and there, so forth. But you know, when your system is built up, you can fight off a whole lot of that stuff because you just override it because your immune system comes in place and takes over. He says, "Hey, I'm here to help you," and they follow through. So I hope this helped, guys. And any questions? Don't hesitate to ask questions. Maybe not on this program right now, but hey, send us questions. We'll do our best to answer them. Okay. Great to be with you, and Eric, thanks for the great job that you do. All right. Be talking to you soon. Have a great life. And it's all about, not about lifespan, it's about health span. Big difference, right? How long is your health holding up? There are people that live old, but they're in wheelchairs. They can't do anything for themselves, but that means their health span is not too great. So you want to work on your health span, not so much on your lifespan.
Quick
Good to be with
question.
you. Talk to
Quick
you
question,
soon.
Hank.
Whoa,
Quick question.
sure.
You know, for someone who might be meeting you for the first time, you are a crazy person. And my question for you is, when you had your last blood workup for your last medical visit, like a year ago,
Yeah.
just give me a summary of what your results are after doing all these things.
Everything was a top notch. And the doctor looked at my numbers. He says, "Well," he says, "your numbers are better than mine." That's the first thing he said. And he's in his late 40s, okay? And he says, "I recommend you start looking for another doctor because I'm going to retire in about 20 years. And you might want to have another doctor eventually." That was a story. That's how he ended up the conversation with me. So that was the results of my blood work. And I go every 6 months.
Thank you for sharing that, Hank. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is quote Carol. We talk about a lot of things on this program, and that is buy what you can afford. But just to acknowledge that investing in your good health is way cheaper than a hospital bed. I've been in both
Well,
places.
you know who said that, right? The founder of Apple. What's his name?
Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
Yeah, he said the hospital bed when he was dying was the most expensive bed he ever slept in. That was his statement. With that, I'm going to close. Maybe some other people want to say some other things. Okay, great to be with you
Thank,
all. Stay healthy.
thank you so
Okay.
Thank you so much for that, Hank. Thank you for that, David. Yeah, if he's crazy, crazy like a fox, I'd say he is good crazy. Thank you for sure. Anyone else have any questions, commentary?
I just want to do a kudos to Hank because I live with him. And, for so many times people will say, well, I pack my vitamins for my husband. I pack this when we go away. I do this for him. I do that for him. I've never put out a vitamin for Hank in all the years we've been married, and we've been studying nutrition and health since 1973 when Nutrilite came on the scene. And he has always done his own vitamins, his own program, his own smoothie with the blueberries and all the kind of stuff that he talks about all the time. And he sticks with it every single day. He just sticks with it every morning, every evening. And it's the consistency because a lot of times I'll see folks and they'll get excited about a specific vitamin. And I understand this. Believe me, we both understand this. But we get excited about one that'll do something. And then pretty soon, a month later, or even a few weeks later, it'll kind of get shoved in the back of the vitamin drawer and it doesn't become a habit. And these are nutritions. These aren't drugs that are going to take something away. These are nutritions that are building something up in your system. And so when you take these supplements and you build up in your system and you continually build up, just like you eat every day, you supplement every day, and you do the other things that Health Point calls for, the consistency is the key. That is the magic in the whole Health Point program. And we're not saying that it's going to eliminate every illness. We're not saying that at all. But what we're saying is, to be honest with you, Hank and I took the attitude many years ago that I don't care how much we have to invest. We're going to invest in something. We're going to invest in poor health, or we are going to invest in great health, preventative health. And we chose to invest in preventative. And I was talking to Eileen Bradley's mom the other day, and she said, if I could only impress upon younger people to get on these programs and stay on them, it would eliminate so much later on. And I thought that was a really good point, is to, when you make a decision to take a supplement, continue to take it. It's a supplement, it's a food. It's not a drug that you, like an antibiotic that you take for 2 weeks and then you get off. Your body is craving this stuff and it's not getting it out in the atmosphere, especially nowadays, given stress, given the pesticides, given the farming practices where they don't rotate crops anymore, all of that, we're dealing with that. So we can't just assume that we're getting that in our foods anymore. So as crazy as Hank sounds, you know what? I'm with the crazies. I'd rather do something crazy like that than later on have to be, in the cure situation rather than the preventative. And if we can prevent even a portion, isn't that so worth it? So,
Carol?
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
honey.
I'd like to add on to that. This came from personal experience, okay? Because
Yeah.
years ago, in my 40s, I had major issues. I ended up in a doctor's office because I was being wined and dined by my suppliers as a senior design engineer. And pretty soon, here's 25 pounds around my gut. And then landed me in a doctor's office. I was felt so bad. He says, man, your cholesterol is way up and your blood pressure is way up. We're going to start you on this medication, that medication. I says, hold it, doctor. You're not starting me on any medications in my 40s. He says, what? I said, listen, I think I know what caused this. I just looked down, there it was. I said, I know how it got there. I know how to get rid of it. And I'll let you know. He said, it's your life. I said, thank you. And I walked out. And that's when I started realizing what was happening to me. It's the stuff I was putting in my body, having lunches with 2 martinis, a steak dinner, desserts after that. And here it comes, pretty soon, 25 pounds that came from all that stuff I was putting in my body. But once I shed that, then things start to really get back in line. And then all the vitamins I take today, all from trial and error. I tried this, okay, the word, the help, but I should try that. One of the big ones is liver support. And you hear a lot about fatty liver today. I take 2 of those a day, liver support, okay, and along with many other things. So the concentrated fruits and vegetables, I think that's an awesome product, okay. So I can go on right around. I think I take about every kind of vitamin that Nutrilite makes. I'll tell you what, it's well worth it. That's all I can say. It's not how much it costs, it's how much is it going to cost you if you don't. That's what you got to think about. I hope that helped. Thanks, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Carol, and thank you, Hank, for sure. So much good stuff. We've got a little bit of time left here. I'm gonna kind of go not in another direction, but well, one of them is kind of another direction, but one of them is definitely related to Nutrilite. And particularly for those of us in Michigan. So for those that aren't in Michigan, close your ears or cry me a river of tears after I tell you this. Uh, so Emily and I are at our cottage, and it's on the west side of Michigan, along Lake Michigan. And the point of that is that in coming up here, I made a decision it was yesterday afternoon, I made a decision to swing through Ada and check out. I knew they were doing some new build outs and stuff like that. And for those of us that were on the Center for Optimal Health tour in Buena Park, California, at our, I think that was a winter conference. Anyhow, we realized we were on the last tour that they were giving there after decades of operations there. And the question was, well, what's happening from here? Well, they were packing it up, and basically they're going to move that to Michigan, to Ada, Michigan, world headquarters. And so what I can tell you is that it's not fully operational yet, but I did swing into, it's west of Amway World Headquarters, but it's on Spalding. And I talked with a young gentleman there, and they are doing kind of like small tours. In fact, they had a group in there of emeralds and above, and I'm talking to primarily the business owners here that are in this Voices of Health point. Just know that essentially, I don't know if it will be called the Center for Optimal Health but what it will be called, but the ability to experience in a very grand way. And many of us know what that grand way is because we experienced it in Buena Park, California, where you have access to seeing the scientist and understanding the history of the Nutrilite brand and everything about it. All the, what is it, like 500,000 quality control tests that they do on a particular product, and all these types of things. That is coming to life in Ada, Michigan, at I'm going to call it the Center for Optimal Health. So the young gentleman was actually at the security gate. He was really cool. I kind of explained some things, and he said, "Hey, well, why don't I get your number and I'll text you, and maybe I can give you a tour." So I said, great. So shout out to Josh, who is a really great employee there, and he's going to work to get me in there and kind of keep me informed on how that. And of course, I'll bring it to this Voices of Health point. The more I learn about the opening up of that and just call it the Nutrilite experience. The second thing that I'll take a bit of a turn on is being here where we're at. When you walk down to the shoreline, you lose signal, which means I love to walk in the morning, and we have 2 dogs and take them they love to walk at probably more than I do. But the problem is you don't typically get a good cellular signal. So listening to an audio the way you normally would in our audio program is kind of harder to do unless you've downloaded it. And I just want to give a shout out. We're all so excited, me more than anybody probably, or right up there with we're all in this organization certainly very excited about the global app and the health point, the 89 audios, the sequential release of those audios, particularly for clients. It's unbelievable the education that they get as they're going through their 6-week cycle. And in fact, it's 89 audios, so that's 2 6-week cycles plus the 5 prep days. So can't say enough about that, and it's phenomenal. But because I'm here and I couldn't get the cell signal there, I went into, we'll just call it the classic Network 21 app. And my point is let's not forget about that. I went into that and went into the downloads, because in that app you can download, if you're on a plane or some rare part of the earth that doesn't have a cellular signal, which sometimes includes the shores of Lake Michigan, and I listened to, my favorite, Jim Dornan. And again, for those that are not business builders that are listening to this or in this meeting, this isn't going to be particularly relevant, but particularly having listened to so much on the global app, so much health points, so much and just seeing the growth that we're seeing in business driven by helping people get healthy, and it's health point, health point, health point. And I love that. And it's wonderful to drop down into the classics. And specifically the one that I listened to is Jim Dornan, the classics. I've listened to it probably, I don't know how many times, but it had been a long time since I'd listened to it. And it was, going direct is easy. We don't even use that term anymore, right? It gives you an idea how old it is, but man, is it powerful and relevant, and nobody delivers that information better than Jim Dornan. So just a shout out to myself, and maybe to, those of us, obviously work with your coach, work with your mentor on what you should do or shouldn't do. But for me, it was just a fresh reminder to, keep on with the classic Network 21 app, and those, well, all the audios, but certainly some of the classics, like the Jim Dornan ones in there, is just, when you hear those, maybe you haven't heard them, listened to them in a while, and it's layered over the kind of the explosiveness of what we've got going right now in Health Point. You kind of listen with a new ear, you hear different things that you maybe didn't hear before, and it's really, really great stuff. It was a great walk this morning listening to Jim Dornan. So that's all I've got on that. And we're kind of coming around to our 1 hour mark. Any other comments, questions?
I'd just like to mention, it's probably more for you than anybody else, but my son works at the Amway Corporation, and he's pretty involved in all the movement of employees from California to Michigan. He's discussed it, but anyway, he's kind of keeping me posted. So if I hear, he always says stuff casually and then says, "Oh, Mom, that's not for public consumption." Sometimes he's just talking, but he mentions stuff about upcoming products as soon as he says anything, because I'll follow it up and say, can I tell anybody that? And if he ever does, when he says yes, I'll pass it along. But I know they're moving along on getting that whole new Nutrilite stuff set up in Michigan. And he says it just makes sense. They're trying to get everything here at the world headquarters now. So just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And boy, now we know who to pester, huh? Right? We need to pester Al Laurel. By proxy, their son. Oh no, that's great information. Yeah. And let us know whatever we need to do to bribe your son to get him to release non-public information.
Well, I can ask him too about the tours and see what would be, what might be available, or what he'll find out for me if I ask him. But I don't want to pester him too much, otherwise won't answer my texts anymore.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. I can tell you that, and Laurel, it sounds like you're probably familiar with this. They also have a new, right at the kind of that main office area that almost looks like a flying saucer. It's real round. It's a beautiful piece of architecture that's been there for many, many, many years. They've adjacent to that, they've built out a area, kind of a welcome area. I think you do have to get something set up ahead of time. You can't just walk in to the public. And then the area where you could walk into and kind of get a history of the company, and certainly Nutrilite, that area is kind of being expanded on and built out really for bringing in big groups, particularly from overseas, well, from anywhere, I suppose, to really get a understanding of the history of the company and the brands and stuff like that. So they're building that out as well. They're doing lots of great things, that's for sure. So, okay, guys. Well, once again, this has taken a lot of different directions, and it's just so fun. Thank you to everyone that has, contributed, that has commented, and everybody that's kind of just joined in and participated in this wonderful session of Voices of Health Point. So we'll plan on next week. I don't think we have anything coming up, certainly in terms of any kind of conferences or anything. So I just kind of double check in my mind. Yes, Carol?
Eric? Yeah, I just want to promote Monday night on our lean team. We have Sharon Webb, and Sharon is, of course, a extreme wealth of knowledge, and she's going to be hitting on the very important topic of gut health, in particular, our balance within and our fiber, which are moving into being an add-on to our non-negotiables. It's not official, but definitely the fiber. And we're really promoting the balance within. And Sharon is going to do a segment on that. And she's very knowledgeable in that area. And then she's also going to talk about our wonderful Ignite product for visceral fat, which are two areas that really important in the Health Point program. So we thank Sharon for joining us, and we encourage people to invite people on that maybe are not ready to take the step even, but they are wanting to stick their toe in a little bit and see what we're all about. That would be an excellent one for them to plug into. So wanted to promote that.
Oh, that's great. Wow. So excited for Sharon Webb. Yeah. Doesn't get any better. And I mean,
That's
there's
right.
a lot of people that can talk about this subject. And, for those of us that have heard her speak on this, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm pumped for this now. So that's 2 days from now, Monday night, 8 p.m. Unlike this session this morning, you do have to be there very much on time. If you're there after 5 after, sorry to say you will not be allowed in. And the reason is because when somebody like Sharon is speaking, or anybody is speaking, we don't want to disrupt the environment. We don't want to disrupt the speaker, and we don't want to disrupt the audience that's there. When somebody pops into Zoom, it reshuffles the avatars and the images on the screen. Sometimes people come in unmuted. And so it's easy. Just arrive a few minutes early. They open promptly at 8 o'clock, and Carol, who hosts and moderates it, I mean, she's so on target. You run a tight ship there, Carol. I don't know how you
Yep,
pull it
I
off
do.
sometimes. The amount that you get in there, and it's just you button it up right there at 8:30, and it's
You can't
perfect.
blink
So
your
8 to
eyes, that's for
8:30
sure.
Eastern. That's true. And so if you don't have that link, just check with your coach to get the link. It is a different Zoom link than what we're using here this morning. But anyhow, guys, again, thank you, everyone. This has been a blast, and we'll see everyone next week. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ed.
Adios. Make it a great week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.